Let's take a look at the Tigers, who have a good support base here at Telstra Stadium to see them take on the Parramatta Eels. Brett Hodgson is the fullback. The halves are Daniel Fitzhenry and Scott Prince. The captain in the second row is Mark O'Neill, and their bench is Reynolds, Hallertau, Jobson and Harrison. The coach is Tim Sheens. There are plenty of new faces for the Parramatta Eels. We'll see how they gel first up. Wade McKinnon is the fullback. Tamana Tahu will play at left centre. The halves are John Morris and Tim Smith. Mark Riddell, another new buy, is at hooker, along with Glenn Morrison at lock forward. Their bench is Marsh, Hindmarsh, Cannings and Perenara. The coach is Brian Smith. Our referee is the Englishman, the 41-year-old Russell Smith. His NRL debut. He will blow time on. Parramatta will defend the right of your screen in the first half, and it's Luke Bird who gets us underway. Kickoff comes down to be brought back by Scandalis, who works it up towards the 20-metre line. Ben Galea, with a closely shaved head to begin the 2005 season, gives it off to Payton, who's stopped by an eager Parramatta defensive line, with Riddell getting up very quickly. O'Neill it is who works it forward. He'll play it. Jar short of the 30. Galea taking it from dummy half, as I mentioned just a few moments ago. Had a terrific first 40 minutes against the Raiders last week at Campbelltown, as the Tigers led that trial game before they were overrun in the second half. LaFranchi met by a wall of blue and gold jumpers. Morrison, Kalis and Riddell were all there, and the kick isn't a bad one, although McKinnon was well placed to take it and bring it back to the Parramatta 20-metre line. In fact, he'll link up here with Morris, who had a couple of speedsters on his outside.
Oh, great start by the Parramatta side. Very aggressive early in the defensive line. Riddell, big hit on LaFranchi.
Release.
Growth playing it for McKinnon. He comes to Stringer, another of the off-season buys, of course, who battles a constant back complaint. In fact, has a disc missing between two of the lower vertebrae, and it's bone on bone for him, so they have to manage that in between games this year. Here's Peake playing it. Some attention from Scandalis over the top. Luke Burt stepping off the left foot, but he ran into some traffic amongst the ruck defenders. And he'll play it here at the halfway line. It's Riddell who will do the clearing kicking from dummy half, and will bounce down to Hodgson. What a super 2004 season he had. He dances up to the defensive line to give it to Robert Miles. It was on this ground last year that he suffered that season-ending knee injury against the Dragons, Robert Miles, that is. And it was a shame for the Tigers because he was in good form at the time. Fitzhenry from dummy half, a role he's filled a number of times for them and will do so throughout the second half of this match in particular, you would think. Prince comes to Payton. He had to just balk on his run to take the pass from behind him. A couple of tackles left in this set. Galea comes down this right-hand side. Fulton, a ball back on the inside. Not an easy one. Well, the Tigers will get a penalty, though.
They're inside the 10, Parramatta. Young William Fulton coming down the short side, trying to look for the offload. What about big Johnny Scandalis? Just diving on the football early in the season. Didn't worry about trying to go to pick up. He's been a warrior for this club.
Hold the line, hold till he plays it.
Here's Galea going to Prince, who has O'Neill outside him. Payton lined up there with Morrison. He made a front-on chest tackle with the help of Kalis and also Peake. Fitzhenry goes to his left-hand side. LaFranchi works it down to within 10. First scoring chance of the game when it comes to the Tigers. Here's Prince in front of the post. He turns it back on the inside for Scandalis, proving to be a handful, still going before Morrison finishes him off. Galea waits at dummy half. Prince at first receiver. Comes to Fitzhenry, who shows it once, gives it back on the inside to O'Neill. Good tackle made down low by Riddell, stopped him. Down a packed short side here, Fitzhenry drawing nobody. Tahu was waiting for him, stopped him a couple of metres out from the line. One last play here for the Tigers. Galea gives it to Prince, who will go with a crossfield bomb. Some pressure on Eric Grove. He didn't get it! Thatawira it did! And the Tigers score the first try of their season.
Check it, please, mate. See where the attacker came from and just check the ground, please.
They're going to check for two things.
It was on the last.
The grounding and whether Fatawira was offside. Great start by the West Tigers.
It will. It did definitely play that.
It was a good kick by Scotty Prince. He had no other option. He had to go for the crossfield kick. Growth, one of the best leapers in the game. Usually pretty good under a high ball. That's a try. He grounds the ball.
Our video referee is Mick Stone. He says try for the Tigers. The underdogs here today at home at Telstra Stadium. They're home for 5 games in 2005. And Paul Fatuira takes just 4 minutes to score his first try as a Tiger. Here's Brett Hodgson. Take a look from not a difficult position. He strikes it well. He has the extra 2. And the Tigers lead the Eels 6 points to 0. An early worry for coach Brian Smith. Greg Alexander.
Yeah, Paul Fatuira, certainly a worry for the Eels, but a pinpoint kick by Scott Prince. And Paul Fatuira, this is his 4th club. He spent time at the Warriors in Melbourne and then 3 years with Penrith. And he became an international while he was at Penrith, a very, very professional player.
Try number 24 now in his career as the kickoff comes to Skandalis, who takes it on the full. He had Liam Fulton there as well, who elected to leave it for him. The big fella had no trouble with it. Here's Payton now. Met there. Chad Robinson, of course, the former Rooster, another of the new signings, and now a mistake here from Payton off the back of the kickoff and the try. They've made a mistake, and the Eels will have it just inside the Tigers' 30.
Well, it's a trend you don't want to be seeing happening too often when you put points on the board. And then in the set of 6, making a mistake. You really must have to get your kick. On that occasion, trying to fight to play the ball, Todd Payton.
Out.
Morris packing into the back of the scrum. Comes this left-hand side to Manatahu, who will play at left centre for Parramatta in 2005. It was one of the clauses, if you like, unofficially, that got him to sign with Parramatta as opposed to the Manly Seagulls. He wanted to play in the centres and wanted to play on the left side of the field. They come back to the right this time. Here's Robinson stepping in traffic. He'll play it just 8 metres out from the Tigers' line. A chance to hit straight back for the Eels as Riddell from dummy half comes to the rookie Tim Smith, who gives it on to Kalis. He takes some stopping. Fitzhenry was there with the help of Lafranchi and also Prince. Riddell shows it one way. Set play from the Eels. Oh, ball from Morris or Robinson, who was the crash test dummy, if you like. They hit him pretty heavily. Here's Riddell grubbering in behind them. Hodgson, though, gets there to force the ball. The Eels will get it back for 6 more tackles.
Well constructed set of 6 there by the Parramatta side. They had decoys, they had second man plays. And then on the last tackle, Riddell getting the repeat set of 6. That's one thing the West Tigers have to be aware. Mark Riddell, good kicker of the football from that position. Also an outstanding runner. Scores a lot of tries close to the line. Marker defence, tight defenders. Have to be tight, moving forward, keeping an eye on him.
The Tigers, you would think, would have worked heavily on that during the week in the lead up to this game. The dropout from Richards is enormous. It goes 70 metres on the fly. I haven't seen a bigger one for some time. What a kick. And now Adam Peake will play it 5 metres on his own side of halfway.
Well, he's a former Parramatta player. You would expect the players to realise if he's got a boot like that to be standing a little bit deeper. You've just got to be aware sometimes. You've got to be aware sometimes that people can do those type of things.
Here's Riddell now from dummy half. Pinches about 5 or so metres before he's stopped there by Galea and also O'Neill. McKinnon does the honours at dummy half as it comes to Morris. Kalis on a good angled run coming back in towards the post, but they stopped him through Payton and also Lafranchi. Smith will put up a bomb this time. It might be too big. Bird is there, flies for it and knocks it back into the field of play. Tamatahu was there to make the tackle, as it was Richards, the dropout specialist now, who came up with it.
You'd be expecting that all the time. I bet you the next time he does a dropout, Parramatta will be back on the 40-30.
Tamatahu here coming up with a high tackle. It was on Liam Fulton, who must have had the thought that if I stay down here and get some attention, they'd take a look at this on the replay, I'll probably get a penalty. But he bounced back to his feet to play it.
Well, that's what you want to see by players, unless they're hurt. You want to see them bounce back up to their feet. You see Fulton coming with the ball. Ooh, does get him high.
Clearing kick from the Tigers here, played off the boot of Wade McKinnon. And a pretty good chase team down there to meet him. They've done very well, absorbing some early pressure here, the Tigers, and now it's Parramatta through Growth who come across field. He links up with Luke Burt. He cuts back infield himself, got away from the tackle there of O'Neill, and then lost the ball. Fulton has it for the Tigers.
Well, there's plenty of ball movement going on from this Parramatta side. But one thing you have to do early in the game, you've got to earn the right to use the football. And they're using the ball, looking to spread the West Tigers defence around.
Well,
ball control's got to be a priority.
Takes it up towards the halfway line.
Release, 2.
We'll play it here for Hodgson. Comes to his right-hand side. Links up with Scandalis. We'll be giving away a couple of kilos to some of the bigger Parramatta forwards, especially when Aaron Cannings comes on the park. It was built up impressively in the off-season. Payton tackled there by Morrison, another tackle which slipped up a little bit high, and Payton is slow back to his feet. He stumps back to his haunches now. Fulton showing it, working down this right-hand side with Richards. Shrugs away from the tackle of Burt. Got the ball back inside, but the Energizer Bunny in Mark Riddell was first there and has it for Parramatta.
Nice work though by Paddy Richards, chiming onto that ball. He had to throw it in. He was flaring with the... He's turned it over again.
McKinnon, as Parramatta put it through the hands.
Never got onside at the play the ball.
And luckily for the Eels, Ben Galea was ruled offside.
Yeah, it was come from the touchy, that call. The referee was going to let it go. Tim Sheens wasn't happy. Here you see Payton running the football.
Tamana!
Just going high, Glenn Morrison. Didn't think there'd look to be too much in that.
Payton certainly was a little bit the worse for wear afterwards. Sure, the instructions are going out from Brian Smith down there on the Parramatta bench at the moment, just to try and calm things down, get themselves into this game with a couple of good sets of 6. They'll get a penalty here, that'll help. Scandalis too slow, getting off the tackled player, and Mark Riddell is thinking about pointing towards the post and saying we'll have a crack at 2. But they're looking for more here. He'll tap it 25 metres out from the Tigers line, and it's Peake who's met there by Scandalis and also O'Neill. We saw a crossfield bomb in the previous attacking opportunity from Tim Smith, the halfback for the Eels. Here he is, feeding it on to Stringer. He's taken the ground heavily there by LaFranchi. In front of the post, 15 metres out. Riddell comes to Smith. He goes past Morrison to give it to Kalis. The Tigers' goal line defence, as it was for most of 2004, has been good to start this game. Here's Smith again. A ball to Morris, running onto it. Stopped there by a good tackle by Fulton. They're just 5 metres away. This is play number 5. Riddell comes to Smith again, getting plenty of touches. The Grubber in behind them came up off the legs of a Tiger. Richards then had it and lost it.
First knock on off Parramatta, no advantage.
It is the Tigers who will still have it, as Russell Smith told us through his microphone. First knock on from Parramatta. Brian Smith a little bit unhappy with what he's seen so far.
Yeah, good decision by the referee. You see, when you go down short sides, there's an opportunity to run the ball on the last tackle, but they were cramped for numbers on that occasion. The West Tigers, they'd scrambled across, and Payton just stuck out his leg. He got the bounce. And when Smith tried to dive on the football, he lost it.
That's one movement.
Richards will play it here for the Tigers. Galea from dummy half. Goes to Liam Fulton. As they split it wide quickly here. Hodgson! Oh, Eric Grove came up. He didn't quite get him, and then Hodgson didn't play the ball correctly. Lucky to get away with one there. Of course, with Russell Smith in his first NRL game, perhaps the interpretations might be slightly different until he gets on the same song sheet, if you like, with all the other referees. And now the Tigers get a penalty for a strip in the tackle.
Is the word involved or interfered on it? Have you got the exact same meaning?
Well, you hear him there talking to the touch judge about the same interpretations of the rules, and it is going to be a little bit difficult for him in those first couple of games, because I'm sure that the interpretations are a little bit different in Australia than what they are over there in England. But he's refereed test matches, and talking to a lot of the Australian guys, they think that he is one of the best referees in the game.
Of course, refereed the Tri-Nations final between Australia and Great Britain. Some words exchanged here between Payton and also Morrison. LaFranchi on the inside ball. Will play it just outside the Parramatta 20. Early try to Fatawira has the Tigers in front 6 points to 0, and here they are looking for more. Scandalis will play it. Midfield, Galea goes back to the left hand. Shows it a couple of times there. Had Fulton lining up in a run, but he takes the tackle. 2 tackles left in this set of 6 for the Tigers as Lafranchi just works it for a hit up close to the line. In fact, he got it very close. Robinson and McKinnon had to stop him. Galea, Fulton quickly shovels it. The pass wasn't a good one. It goes over the sideline, and it will be a changeover there on the last. Parramatta will have it from their own 10.
Yeah, that's okay from the young kid. Taking on a little bit of responsibility down the short side. Parramatta, they're numbering up on Scott Prince. They believe that Prince is the dominant playmaker out there. They're identifying where he is on the field, so they need someone to take a little bit of pressure off him. And Fulton was the man on that occasion. Good tackle by the Tigers.
We're all up there. Payton, Galea, and also Lafranchi getting up to monster Glenn Morrison. McKinnon to Riddell. He gives it to Stringer. Good charge from the former Rabbitoh. Then over backwards though in the tackle by Mark O'Neill. That was okay, says the referee, and now Morris it is who kicks down the middle of the park. It bounces up here for Hodgson, who was lined up by Eric Grove. Didn't quite get him as cleanly as he would have liked, but it would have rattled the lightweight fullback.
He's as tough as they come though, Brett Hodgson. We saw it time and time again last season. Was hit with some tremendous shots. Kept bouncing up to his feet. Quick play the ball again from the West Tigers, dragging a penalty out of Parramatta. Sapping up the energy.
That's better for the word involved. Someone I'm used to, Ross. Cheers, mate.
Yep. They love doing a lot of cross plays too in this field position, the West Tigers.
Yep.
See, Glenn Morrison was the player called out by Russell Smith for being in front of the 10, and it was hard to argue given the replay we just saw. Todd Payton goes back to the bench early here for the Tigers. Scandalis it is, who once again finds himself just 10 metres out from this Eels line. Prince back on the inside for Lafranchi. Jobson is the player out there now for Todd Payton. Galea comes to Prince. Here's Fitzhenry showing it. Again back on the inside to O'Neill. He popped the ball out the back. Off the arm there of Fitzhenry. Richards gives it back to Fitzhenry. Pops it over the top to Matthew Reek. There are blue jumpers, gold jumpers there trying to put him into touch. And in the end he had to force the ball loose, and it came to Luke Birch.
Well, they're reading it well, the Parramatta team. They're really aware on the inside. They're pushing across when the ball goes away from them. They're realising that the Tigers are looking to cross play. Trying to get a lazy defender, not moving across. They've worked really hard. They're sliding towards the ball carrier and putting pressure on the runner.
Robinson, there by Fulton. He's giving away some kilos in that confrontation as Liam Fulton, but he stopped him nicely with the help of O'Neill. Riddell. Tim Smith, who got one after the kick as well from John Scandalis. Just a little turn of the back from the front rower, and he cleaned up the halfback, who's a live wire type with a bit of flair, as Brian Smith has told us in the build-up to this game. Might have been fractionally late, that one.
Yeah, it looked a little bit late. I suppose a warning on the run, but look, that's something that you'd be telling your players. A key playmaker, first grade debut. Don't make it easy for him. Don't make him feel like he's playing in the under-20s. As Brian Smith looks on from the sideline.
Just make sure we're not late on the kicker, come on.
There is a little warning from Russell Smith, intended for Scandalis, about that late contact there with Tim Smith. Here's Galea down the right-hand side. Within about 8 metres of the halfway line. Fitzhenry working the blind side also. Working tandem once again with Mark O'Neill on this short side. Galea waiting at dummy half. Scandalis. Oh, and Morrison this time is a little bit high. Payton had a concern a few moments ago.
About the head. Let's make sure you don't hit the head on the first contact and don't work the head in the tackle afterwards.
That's how Morrison does a lot of his tackles. He goes high, tries to stop the man offloading the football. He likes to do the wrap and throw the legs around at the same time. Sometimes he sails pretty close to the mark.
He was around the chin region there of of John Scandalis, but has Parramatta under pressure once again. Here's LaFranchi taking it inside the 20. You're playing in the front row now, you would expect, with Payton off the field. He spent plenty of time there in the passes. O'Neill works it down to the 10-metre line. Galea from dummy half. Comes back to this short side, changes his mind. O'Neill links up with Prince. A chance here for the Tigers. Great ball to Hodgson. In behind Fatawira, who knocked it on. Got the kick in, and there is a late call eventually from the referee. Fatawira was facing his own goal line, but knocked the ball forwards. It looked promising there for the Tigers for a moment.
Yeah, they're looking to use the ball. And I like it when the Tigers play like this. They've just got to execute a little bit better. But they have people in motion, they have people around the football. They play out the back a lot, they do the cross plays, they mix it up.
Come on, let's get in.
And it just asks a lot of questions of the defensive line.
Parramatta shifting it left quickly off the scrum wing, and it's Tahu who takes it outside the 20-metre line. Here's Morrison, been involved in all sorts of action in the last 10 minutes or so. Good ball away to Wagon. Playing in the centres for Parramatta to start the season. He got it to the halfway line. Now Peake runs at Scandalis. And the call from the referee as the tackle was off the shoulder. Riddell looking up here with Tahu. Tries to put a step on Richards. They've certainly been perhaps outplayed slightly, the Eels, by the Tigers as far as the forwards are concerned, away from this first 20 minutes of the match. Again, Scandalis coming up with potential high shot. Riddell gives it to Smith. He got in behind and then threw a good pass. It comes off the shoulder of one to Cannings, but he lost it. And the Tigers have it through Paul Fatawira.
Gee, that was good work by Fatawira and the guys defending on that left edge. Tim Smith looked as though he was going to kick it, but they kept moving forward. And all of a sudden, then he went to run the football, got in behind some forwards, looked to play the ball out the back to his outside men. But Fatawira and that kept moving forward in the defensive line. If they had held back, just expecting the kick to happen, they would have found the numbers out there on that occasion, Parramatta. Never assumed the kick is going to happen.
Galea again changing the angle. A short ball from Prince to Jobson. He wasn't ready for it. He thought he was there as a decoy and that Prince was going in behind him. And the mistake by the Tigers will give it back to the Eels. A fairly warm afternoon here. We saw the Parramatta Eels players running onto the stadium with cups of water to make sure they were as hydrated as they possibly could be before this game. And it will be tough for both sets of forwards in the final 10 minutes of this first half. Morris this time doing the honours as the halfback at the scrums in a number of configurations for the Eels in this opening half at scrums. Burt back on the inside here to Henry Perenara, much travelled player who lost the ball here in the tackle. It's play on, says Russell Smith. The Tigers have it, replays it. O'Neill comes to Hodgson, who gets the first receiver. He spins it wide to Prince, who links up with Fatawira. Again, the Tigers looking to go left quickly in the opening couple of tackles in a set of 6. Fitzhenry to Prince. LaFranchi showing it. Struck the line and paid the penalty. He's picked up on a solid tackle there by John Morris. Galea comes to Prince. Miscommunication there with Payton, who had a short break, is back out there now for the Tigers. Here's Fulton picking it up and going. Contact again there, high from Glenn Morrison. That was okay, says the referee. Payton, good ball on to Prince, who's running. Met there by Riddell and stopped just inside the Parramatta 20.
I've got movement, Mark, you're still holding him.
Yeah, good decision
No,
there
I
by the
haven't on a
referee.
movement. You're working on the ground on a movement.
He wanted to quick play the ball there. Scotty Prince looking for it. Mark O'Neill comes up. Big decision. I think they might have been keen to keep the pressure on Parramatta, but they've elected to go for the 2 points. You can see there in between the defenders looking to get up quick.
Have a word with each other.
And the strike from Hodgson is a good one. 2 more points to the home team Tigers. And with 15 minutes left in this first half, they lead the Eels 8 points to 0.
Brett Hodgson, terrific player. Johnny Scandalis on the bench. And there he is, Nathan Hindmarsh. Every time he takes the paddock for the Parramatta team, they are a different outfit.
Starting the season from the bench in this opening round of the new campaign, of course, after having a disc just trimmed up with a bit of surgery in the off-season just after Christmas, and he's been working his way back into some full-on contact in the last few weeks. Didn't take part in any of the pre-season games for the Eels. Here he is getting some contact for the first time in earnest in 2005 with a tackle on Ben Galea. Prince moving on to Liam Fulton. He's a youngster with plenty of raps on him. Must be a couple of tackles there. Jobson gives it on to O'Neill. Richards, good ball to Reek, who certainly can fly. He had Hodgson on the inside, but he didn't see him, and McKinnon made a good tackle. Galea to Prince, last play. Crossfield bomb again. Miles is out there, but he takes a swing and a miss. But the Tigers might have bombed a try when Reek didn't see Hodgson looming up on the inside.
It was a great work by Mark O'Neill and short hands under pressure. They exposed Tamana Tahu and Luke Burt. Reek got away. He didn't even look inside. Hodgson was moving up in support. Look at the quick hands there. And Reek, he was always going to run the football. He didn't have it out in two hands. That's why as a youngster, when you're being coached, you should always have it out in two hands. Gives you the option of passing or going yourself. He was always going to run it up. It was tucked under the wing.
Miles had a miss. Let's go downstairs to Greg.
That happened right in front of me. Wade McKinnon, he deserves all the credit there. He really rushed Matthew Reek. Matthew Reek, I don't think he had time to look inside for Brett Hodgson, because Wade McKinnon ran about 10 metres forward to nail Matthew Reek and put an end to it.
Well, certainly so impressed with his campaign in 2004, of course, was a Parramatta junior before moving on to South Sydney for a couple of seasons. And now the pass has gone forward here for the Eels, with McKinnon ending up with it. Their attack has been disjointed. They'll start this opening half for them in 2005. They haven't strung too much together as far as sets of six are concerned. Some fairly significant contact there between Richards and McKinnon, who got one for his trouble.
Yeah, well, both teams looking to use the football. I suppose the key area for the Tigers is they haven't had too many changes in the off-season. So they've had their combinations, and towards the end of the year, they were starting to play with a bit more width in their game. Whereas Parramatta, it's all different for them, all new.
Well, heading left with Prince, who showed it a couple of times off the scrum. We linked up with Hodgson, who came back to pretty much where the scrum was formed, and now Fitzhenry gives it to Payton, who comes to Hindmarsh, and also Morrison. They do have some depth in the back row this year, Parramatta. Fitzhenry, ball to Reynolds, who was fresh on the park, and he knocked it on at the first touch. He just come on and got one, I'm sure, when he wasn't expecting it from Fitzhenry. And we'll see what happens as far as the reshuffle is concerned for the Tigers, but you would think that Reynolds will slot into dummy half with Ben Galea coming back to the bench.
He's better known as a half 5'8", Benny Reynolds, former Penrith Panther.
Morris from the back of the scrum again, leading it to Tamana Tahu. Hasn't been able to show what he can do so far in this game. Perenara taking it inside the Tigers 40 to be stopped there by O'Neill and also LaFranchi. Riddell hasn't taken them on too much from dummy half as yet. Here's Morris. So look for a fast play of the ball. Didn't quite get the one they were looking for. Smith feeding it on to Morrison, who beat a couple of defenders. Fitzhenry came again to stop him 10 metres out. Riddell from dummy half goes to the right-hand side. Wagon will be stopped there, 5 metres away. Riddell has it on the last play. Here's Smith, rubbering again, in behind them this time. Charging through was Henry Perenara. The Tigers did well, though, to block him on his run, and Hodgson brings it out from the in goal.
That was great work by the West Tigers. They really helped Brett Hodgson on that occasion. Ben Reynolds has turned the football over. His first two touches of the year haven't been great. And all of a sudden, the Tigers are back under pressure.
Remember, Reynolds, of course, broke a leg himself last year and missed a good portion of the season for the Tigers. Here's Smith. A delayed pass, a good pass as well for Cannings. And the rookie halfback serves one up for Aaron Cannings to dive over and score for the Eels. And it's 8-4, they trail.
A lovely ball from Tim Smith. He just held it up beautifully, and Cannings hitting the hole, a big man. And that's what happens when you turn the ball over in cheap field position. You can't afford to do it They struggle to regroup. And Tim Smith running the football out in two hands, committing a defender to him and laying up a lovely pass for Kennings. Went down a short side, drew Scott Prince in, a misread of the defence by Paddy Richards.
As Bert's conversion splits the uprights, and they trail by 2. The Tigers lead the Eels 8 points to 6. Greg Alexander.
Yeah, look, he's really timed his play, Tim Smith, hasn't he? He's just getting the pace of it, getting the feel of NRL football. Just prior to that play where he really put a lovely ball on for Aaron Cannings, he put a good little kick into the in goal. The Parramatta players didn't chase it well, but that's what they want from their number 7. When they get down in the danger zone, they want him to put on tries either by a pass or a kick, and he's done well.
The Eels club has flown his parents down today to watch him make his top-grade debut. Mark and Melissa Smith are here to watch their 20-year-old son go around. Former runaway Bay junior up there on the Gold Coast. I'm sure they're pretty proud after seeing him lay on a try for Aaron Cannings here in this first half. Here is Cannings. Getting away from the defence there is Matt Jobson. Tigers, with this small bench they have, may well be tested out when the bigger men go back to that bench. There's Reynolds going down low to make a tackle on Kalis as they work it up towards the halfway line. McKinnon playing it. Comes back with a clearing kick from Smith. He'll pick out Robert Miles on the fall, who takes it at the Tigers' 20-metre line. And he drops it as well. Some simple mistakes in the last 5 minutes for the Tigers. Have them under pressure again. Wagon to McKinnon. Stopped by O'Neill and also Harrison. Here they come. It could well be 10 minutes in the bin.
Down, lads.
They laid there on the tackled player.
Hang on, mate.
PJ Marsh is out there for the Eels now in jumper 14. He'll certainly add something to their attack. And here's Kalis off the quick tap. Riddell goes back to the bench for a breather. Marsh does the honours from dummy half. It comes to Tim Smith. Gives it to Morris this time. He's not 5 metres out from the Tigers' line. Marsh again to Smith. Stepping, jinking, almost finding a hole for himself. But it was Jobson who stopped him a metre away. Marsh shows it. Trying to do a little Riddell on the Tigers' defensive line and duck underneath him. They were waiting for him. Here's Smith. A pass through the hands there of Morris. Cost the Eels some momentum in this sort of 6. Last play here is Wagon from dummy half. Gives it to Smith again, the crossfield bomb. He's in a couple of the feel his way now, and then a good take there from Matthew Reid, who left the field, and it was play on. Now Prince has it. Everybody stops, and off with your head, on with a pumpkin moment that almost cost the Eels.
Oh, you're excited about that, Smith. You want to get it in for Monday. But the Tigers, they reacted better than the Parramatta team. Parramatta were looking. He was calling out the referee. Play on, play on.
Offside, Glenn.
Worked the penalty beautifully, the West Tigers. What about that? I've never seen that before.
They all stopped. Reek certainly thought he left the ground from the in-goal area. Russell Smith said, no, you're in the field of play. Here it is. And Russell Smith was exactly right.
That's just bad play by the Parramatta team. Tamana Tahu and Luke Burt just assuming that he caught it in goal.
In the context of the game, a huge play, because the Eels could have very easily been having 6 more tackles on the attack. Instead, now they're defending as Brett Hodgson comes from the field with an eye problem, it looks, to that left eye. So a reshuffle here coming up for the Tigers. We'll see what Tim Sheens does at the back. Here's Reynolds from dummy half. Has had his problems to start this game since coming off the bench. Harrison playing it to Reynolds. Prince with O'Neill. As Richards outside him. They've combined a couple of times to good effect in this first half. Prince at dummy half. Gives it to Matt Jobson, who steps off that left foot. Handled though by Cannings, who drives him backwards there with the help of PJ Marsh. Prince again, 10 metres out, grubbering in behind them. Some pressure on McKinnon. He got away there from the tackle off Fitzhenry, but they were there in numbers as well to stop him. Harrison and Fulton made the tackle, and the Tigers will get 6 more. You're on candid camera.
Good kick though by Scotty Prince. Good kick, good chase. What about the cool work of Wade McKinnon? Just wrapping the football up, looking as though he could get out.
Keep behind the line, Potter, keep behind.
I think that's what their Tigers have to do. They can't play a power game against this Parramatta team. They've got to try and outsmart them and try and get the possession rate up and tire them out a little bit. They can do that and then maybe run some good angles, inside passes. When they're a little bit tired, then try to expose them.
Morrison playing it here for Miles. It will take it down to within 20 of the Parramatta line. Greg Alexander has more on Brett Hodgson.
Yeah, Brett Hodgson's left the field. He's gone into the tunnel, the West Tigers tunnel. He's got a bad poke in the eye. They're expecting him to be all right, so he'll just get that fixed up and be back on the field as soon as possible.
Oh, some quick hands here from the Tigers. It's Fiji Rugby Sevens time. Richards for the corner. What an effort from the former Eel. He comes back to haunt them.
No knock on in the build-up to that either, was there? Just go back, please. Just check the build-up to that as well, please.
That's outstanding by Pat Richards. Here they go again, the Tigers. Nice little cross play. That's okay. Nice hands, and then the pick up here by Paddy Richards. Gets away from Tahu. Burt doesn't know whether to stay out or come in. He comes in, misses the tackle. McKinnon misses the tackle on Pat Richards, and he slams it down. Better known as a winger, Paddy Richards. Got his opportunity in the centres this year. Some feeble attempts at tackle. Oh, does his hands come off the football?
I'd like to see it at normal speed, because in slow-mo, these ones always look much, much worse than they really are. I think his fingers are in contact with the ball the whole way down.
Yeah, that's a try for me. That's a try.
We have a try. Green lights for Pat Richards and the Tigers, and they lead 12 points to 6 with 4 minutes left in this first half.
Well, they look shell-shocked, Parramatta, but the Tigers heading back just on the stroke of half-time. Richards has been moved from wing to the centre position. Reeks out on the wing, got plenty of pace, and there he is, big, strong. Look, a couple of years ago, this guy was touted as a future State of Origin player. Then he suffered a serious leg injury. First year back last year, full season in first grade.
Now here he is kicking as well. We know what sort of boot he has. It's a strong one. The kick, though, is just wide from the toughest position on the field. But the Tigers, a couple of tries in this first half, one to Fatuira and one to Richards. The centres have both the 4-pointers. As Tim Sheen's watches on, I'm sure he's very happy with what he's seen from his side, Greg Alexander.
Shane Elford out with a groin injury. Pat Richards has moved into the centres. He's certainly caused plenty of troubles down this right-hand side for Tamana Tahu and Luke Burt. We saw him lay on a lovely ball for Matthew Reek midway through this first half, and that was just power play by the former Parramatta player.
Here is Fatuira, the scorer of that first try of the game back in the 4th minute. Reynolds giving it to Bronson Harrison. Bumps away from the tackle there of Nathan Kalis before Nathan Hindmarsh it is who wraps him up. Hallertau. One of the real finds for the Tigers in the last couple of seasons. There's some experience on board now. He's out there for the Tigers in 15 to end of this first half. As Reynolds feeds it to Prince. Come up with something of a midfield spiral bomb here. Some pressure on Wade McKinnon, who did very nicely at his own 10-metre line to take it comfortably. And he brings it back outside the 20 to be stopped by Reynolds and also Jobson.
It was an easy set of 6 on that occasion for the West Tigers, rolling over the 50 quite comfortably. And Parramatta early in the game, they were moving off their line quick. They were getting numbers in. They were trying to dominate around the middle of the park. Good run, though, by Eric Groth. Pass on to PJ Marsh. Can they come up with something special on the stroke of half-time?
Marsh might be just the player to get them going in the right direction, of course. He was the spark plug for the Warriors, who had them firing in 2002 when they made the grand final against the Roosters. Of course, it's been well publicised, the neck injury he had, and has spent a couple of seasons out of football before coming back now in 2005 for the club he started with. The kick went high. Fitzhenry came up with a mistake, and the Eels will have about 3 or 4 tackles off the back of this scrum to try and level this score up at 12 all at half-time.
Well, Fitzhenry's gone back to the fullback position. The Tigers are down Parramatta took an awful amount of time there to pack that scrum. They packed the scrum, the referee blows time out. They wasted a good 20 seconds on that occasion, Parramatta. Not aware, a little bit tired.
Time back on, please.
Smith feeding it as Morris from the back of the scrum gives it to Morrison. He'll be 10 metres away from the Tigers line. 30 seconds left in this first half. Marsh showing it a couple of times. Smith gives it on to Nathan Hindmarsh, who was well stopped there by Paul Fadawira. He's been solid in defence down that left-hand side for the Tigers. Marsh to Smith. Turns it back on the inside for Kalis, but again, plenty of numbers there for the Tigers. Smith picked up a wild pass, takes it to the line, shows it. He was stopped by Harrison. McKinnon to Morrison. Numbers for the Eels, and it cost the Tigers an expensive mistake on the stroke of half-time. The fill-in fullback Fitzhenry coughed up a bomb, and Morrison has a 4-pointer for the Eels off the back of it.
The Tigers also had to be aware. They were short down that blind side. They needed to make an attempt to go to the football and not slide away. Because when you slide away and someone slices in between you, their momentum takes you through the tackle. And when you're that far out, you can't afford to do it. And a penalty would have been better than giving away a 4-pointer with a chance of 6 points.
There is Luke Burt. Now blessed with a number of kicking options, the Eels in 2005. To square the ledger again. The kick swings to the right-hand side, and it's the Tigers, and something of a surprise, who lead the Eels 12 points to 10 as they go to the sheds for a break. We've seen 2 tries each.
It's Pat Richards restarts with a high kickoff.
Not a bad one either. It almost got the upright as it came down. Morris had to juggle it a couple of times. It would have been an awkward way to start. It was floating through the air with very little spin on the ball as it came down to Morris, and he did well in the end. Here's Morrison giving it to John Morris, who got in behind them. Oh, Tim Smith was there screaming for it. Morris just couldn't get the pass away. Morrison now to McKinnon. He tries to fend away from one tackle there. He bounces off Hallertown before he's stopped there by Ben Reynolds. Marsh, those unmistakable red boots in this game tonight. Gets it from Hindmarsh. Morris. There's the clearing kicking for them. And Fitzhenry is still back there at fullback. He tracks across, of course, remembering it was his mistake, which led directly to the Morrison try in the stroke of half-time.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be looking to redeem himself. Just saw on the first set of 6 after half-time, the Parramatta team, Morris making that half break. Look, in years gone past, Parramatta were known as a close support team, and every time someone poked their nose through and got their hands free, there was always someone on the end of that play, and that's something that's gone out of their game over the last couple of years. Reynolds
coming to the left-hand side with a work it to Prince, and then Payton will play it here. Prince kicking. Not a deep one, just chipping in behind them. Chasing through quickly was Harrison, who got to it first and then had the ball stolen one-on-one by Wade McKinnon. Well, it's a good play by Wade McKinnon. I actually thought there may have been 2 in the tackle, but he got away with it. Really come on as a player, Wade McKinnon. Of course, started with the Parramatta side, a couple of seasons with South Sydney, and last year was one of their best as growth, barnstorming run over the top of Liam Fulton. He'll play it just into Tigers territory as Morris from dummy half comes to Nathan Kalis. Duck into the tackle there, but he's stopped by Fulton, who's been fairly solid for the Tigers. Morrison all met by Harrison. Speaking of solid, good shot up around the chest region. Last play here for Parramatta. Marsh gives it to Smith, who thought about a bomb, kept it through the hands from Morris back on the inside to Cannings. It was worth a shot, but the Tigers were up to it with Jobson making the tackle. As they work it away from their own end, let's go downstairs to Greg Alexander.
Yeah, words from both camps at half-time. Brian Smith quite happy with the effort from the Eels in defence. He wants them to show more patience with the ball. From the West Tigers, Tim Sheen's not happy with the ball control, and he wants them to stand deeper in attack. Where I think you can point to one instance in the game where they had the overlap. Paul Fadawira was standing too flat, and the run ended. just on Brett Hodgson. He's come out on the Tigers bench. He's got a scratch on the eyeball, and it's just a wait and see with Brett Hodgson. Blurred vision. If that clears, he'll be back on the field.
You could see him quite clearly on the bench there, inconvenienced by that left eye injury. And now the Tigers turn it over. Tim Smith has it for Parramatta, and he'll play it back for Tamana Tahu to dance away from dummy half and link up with McKinnon. Todd Payton made an important tackle. The fullback was on the fly, and now he puts his hand up straight away. McKinnon has a problem. It may well be a hamstring. And Morrison, or Mark O'Neill, is in a bad way as well. He has a nasty gash on the face, and he ran to Russell Smith, the referee, and said, "Please pull it up, sir." They're down all over the place here at the moment. Now Kalis is going off. Quite obviously, he was in a collision with Mark O'Neill, and there is McKinnon, who has a hamstring.
Well, 3 interchanges at once. Mark O'Neill running the football. There it is there. Head clash with Nathan Kalis. They both go down.
Down back on tackle 2.
Well, there'll be some needlework required by the Tigers. Dr. Donald Qua will be in there trying to stitch him up. We saw him holding a towel to the face of Mark O'Neill, and they'll get to work very quickly on him as Jobson now points it up towards the halfway line. 2. Reynolds from dummy half comes to Payton. Step inside Aaron Cannings, who was coming up quickly off the line for Parramatta. Is Fulton at first receiver, turning it back on the inside for LaFranchi. Just inside the Eels 40. Reynolds again looks to the open side, came back to the short side. Fulton changing the angle once more, rounding on his run, was taken in a great tackle by Marsha, chopped him down cold. Now Prince on the gallop, rubbering in behind them, taken there by Tamana Tahu. There's a bit of room to move in. Dean Hallertau realised he had to wrap him up quickly and made a solid tackle. Robinson, as Hodgson gets to his feet, looks as though he might be out there pretty quickly here for the Tigers. Stringer playing it, Cannings taking it up towards the halfway line. No change to the half-time scoreline. 5 minutes gone in this second half, and the Tigers lead the Eels 12-10 as Cannings plays it. Marsh shovels it there to Tim Smith. Didn't seem to be too much communication with the Eels in the last couple of tackles, and Fitzhenry will watch it across the dead ball line.
Yeah, Tim Smith, he needs to learn. He needs to be dominant on 4th and 5th play. He needs to be telling the team where he is, when he wants the football. And the idea for a half on the 4th or 5th tackle is to get it on a quick play of the ball so you're not under pressure to kick the ball. You leave it too late or it's a sloppy's last play of the ball, all of a sudden you're under all sorts of pressure. You don't get the kick to where you want it to be. These are things that you learn along the way.
Prince to Fitzhenry, to Fulton, who comes to Fadawira, who beat a couple of defenders there. Both Growth and Wagon had a crack at him, both missed. As Reynolds appealing for a penalty, comes to LaFranchi, who's been very good for the Tigers. Reynolds now from dummy half to Prince, who's surrounded by blue and gold jumpers. Eventually, he almost ghosted his way through the defensive line of Glenn Morrison. He made the tackle eventually, but somehow he almost got through them. Reynolds puts it high in the air. Not a bad bomb to the open spaces. Growth let it bounce.
Well, I don't know what Eric Growth is doing out there under the high ball, but tonight he's looked all at sea. There was no urgency shown on that occasion. He let it bounce. You can't afford to do that. It could have bounced anywhere, this kick. He needed to have an attempt at that.
He missed one, of course, in the first half, which led to the try by Paul Fadawira in just the 4th minute of the game. And he let that one bounce. It could have gone absolutely anywhere. Robinson taking it up towards the halfway line. Plays it back to Marsh. Looking for a fast play the ball. Took off in dummy half on this occasion, but Fulton read it very well. Morris goes to Stringer. Spent a good portion of the first half on the bench. And the rotation used by Brian Smith. Hindmarsh came off the bench, and Kalis moved up to the front row when Hindmarsh came on. Difficult bomb here for Fitzhenry to take. He didn't want to know too much about it either. It comes back to Wagon. 6 more tackles for Parramatta. They're 5 metres away. Perenara waits. It bounces for Smith, who cuts one out. It comes to Tahu, who was wrapped up by the Tigers. Fitzhenry will see a couple more bombs before this game is out. Here's Smith, giving it back on the inside to Cannings. Hallertau hanging on the tackle, trying to slow it down as Smith now has it. Here's Stringer, trying to run over the top of a couple of Tigers defenders, including Ben Reynolds. Marsh comes to Smith. He's got options. Morris is a good one. He was on the fly, and too much of a handful for them. He charged over.
Time off, please. We have a look at that grounding, please, Mick.
Russell Smith wants to take a look at it, but good play by the halves on this occasion. They had the Tigers backpedaling and sliding again on that left-hand side, and Morris hit it on the burst and was able to push his way through Fulton and Fatuira.
Yeah, he's got that down.
It comes up green lights, and it's taken them 49 minutes. But Parramatta have the lead, 14-12 over the Tigers.
Well, there's always going to be some question marks over the halves of this Parramatta team. Johnny Morris and Tim Smith. But this try came about on the back of that bomb. PJ Marsh from dummy half. He knew where the ball wanted to go. This is the second try he's laid on Tim Smith. He does it nicely. He commits a defender on the unders line and then has a man hitting the hole.
Luke Burt with the kick. It's good. And the Eels lead by 4. 16-12 the scoreline, Gregory.
Well, Laurie's just wrapping the number 7, the young kid making his debut, Tim Smith. And what I like about him, when he gets in that 20-metre area in the attacking zone, he comes alive. He's always looking for something. He laid on a try for Aaron Cannings. He's put one in the in goal, and then he put one onto his 5/8 chest there, Johnny Morris. He's had plenty of help from Johnny Morris, but the kid's got composure, and I like his excitement.
Here's a shallow kickoff from the Tigers. Robert Miles has a crack at it and almost came up with it. Nathan Hindmarsh was there to get it just for the Eels, but we've seen a variety of kicks from Pat Richards tonight, including a 70-metre goal line dropout.
And they're all spiral. Even the dropout was a spiral.
Dominant.
Got a big boot, Pat Richards.
Hold. Go.
Growth playing it for Marsh. Stringer onto Hindmarsh. Dumps it out the back for Luke Bird, who was poised to take the crumbs, and he got some. Wrapped up there, though, by Liam Fulton, who makes another tackle. Marsh, a ball for Wagon. He doesn't handle it, and there was no advantage, you would think, there for the Tigers when Miles picked it up, and I think it will still come back for a West feed.
See it? Parramatta.
And that's exactly the way Russell Smith rules it. The Eels aren't too happy about it. They thought there was an advantage there for the Tigers when Miles picked it up.
Please.
He was set upon straight away and flung across the sideline. It would have been a tough call to take the scrum off them.
Get in, looks forward.
Prince from the back of it. Comes to Robert Miles, who was tackled just outside the Parramatta 30. We'll see if the Tigers here can respond. The Eels taking the lead for the first time in the game. Fitzhenry. They number up well in defence. The Eels. Oh, pressure pass there. Matthew Reek was under the pump as the pass came from Pat Richards, and he was bundled across the sideline without the football. They had some chance there to work it towards the Parramatta line and put some real pressure on them, but they went to the right quickly. The pass from Richards perhaps shouldn't have been thrown.
No, he put his outside men under a lot of pressure, but Morrison showed the urgency to get over there. Made 28 tackles already in this game, Glenn Morrison. He scored a try. He's been very enthusiastic. Come up with the right play when it's been needed.
That's one movement.
Robertson playing it for Parramatta. It comes to Wagon, who is weaving his way down the sideline. He beat the tackle of Fatuira, and then LaFranchi, who started his career, remember, as a winger for the Dragons back in the mid-90s. Eventually found his way into the forward pack at Parramatta. He may well be gravitating back from where he started. Morris showing it. Left hand wheeling the ball back in at the last moment as he came to the tackle there of Harrison and also Reynolds. Marsh to Smith. Perenara was standing flat when he got it. And he'll play it here, 15 metres out from the Tigers' line. Last play for the Eels. Smith this time. Passes it to Morris. They elect not to kick. Perhaps they should have. Hindmarsh coughs it up. So did Fadawira, but the Tigers will have it.
Well, the best play that the Parramatta team could have come up with on that occasion would have been to test him again with a high ball. Fitzhenry, he was hoping they were going to run the ball. He was pushing his numbers across. He was calling people to come and give him a hand. He thought it was coming up to him. Go back again and try it. Had success on 2 occasions.
Stand up, plate, hold.
Hayden touching at his back as he was met heavily in that tackle, and he got up and was still in some discomfort out there as Miles will play it for the Tigers. Reynolds down the short side from dummy half. Fulton was met by a couple of defenders up very quickly there. Morrison also wagging. Reynolds gives it to Jobson. 5 metres into Eels territory, and he plays it here. On this last tackle now, Prince puts up a midfield bomb of his own, but it slews off the side of the boot. Comes down to Pat Richards. The Eels hung off him, and then Richards was allowed to get a kick in, which has Luke Burt fielding it on top of his own goal line. Had they pressured Richards, the Eels might have had it in better position.
Well, you thought that they were going to, and all of a sudden they held off. And Richards was able to catch aware to put it on the toe and try and get some field position. They've got to come up with better plays on 5th tackle. Scotty Prince, he's the most experienced half out there in the game. And the Tigers will be looking to him to control things.
There's Peake taking it up towards the halfway line. Cannings goes back to the bench with Peake back out there for the moment. There'll be much interest, of course, when Mark Riddell comes back onto the field to see what his role will be, and you would think, as it was at the Dragons, he is a running back rower with Marsh perhaps playing out the rest of the game.
Yeah, you would think that'd be the case, and that's the way that they did trial. And he's well suited to the back row too, Mark Riddell. Damaging runner of the football. And the coach just biding his time, waiting him to put him back into the game.
There's LaFranchi. He takes it across the 30-metre line for the Tigers. Plays it back to Reynolds, who gives it to Fitzhenry, and then Fulton has been very involved. The youngster playing, of course, this Tigers side, which has so many potential youngsters in 2005 when Marshall comes back into the fold. Bryce Gibbs, of course, will be back out there as well, the young front rower. Hindmarsh here coming up with a heavy tackle on Reynolds, who was shaken up by it. He was slow back to his feet. Now Prince fending away from the tackle of Marsh. Gives it to Hallertau. Pressure on here. Last play. They're desperate. It comes to Richards, the super boot, and he puts a kick in down the sideline, which bounces up for Burt.
Well, he's got to have more options as well, Scotty Prince. He's leaving it to the 5th tackle. One, it's coming up to slow play the ball, and Parramatta are set to put pressure on him, but he's got no options on the inside. Parramatta are screaming out of the line at him. He needs options on the inside. He needs options to run it, but he's got to come up with the best decisions. He's got to get people in the position. Parramatta work the numbers beautifully.
Morrison it is. He'll play it. 5 metres on the Tiger side of halfway. They get a penalty.
Working him after the tackle.
They were too keen to go on with the Tigers as Galea comes back to the sideline for their 9th interchange of the match. And Marsh finds the line. Parramatta come down to the Tigers into the field to try and extend this 4-point lead.
Well, it's all about pressure. It's been 2 ordinary sets from the West Tigers, and all of a sudden the momentum shift is starting to go back towards Parramatta. Can the Tigers hang on?
Stringer got the inside ball from Smith, from Marsh. Comes back to Smith. He has a step and uses it to go straight past Reynolds. He hasn't shown it too much in this game, but he certainly can step. Here's Morris now, coming back to the left-hand side. Hindmarsh, then in the tackle there of Payton and also LaFranchi. Marsh waiting, 5 metres away from the Tigers' line. He turns it back on the inside for Stringer. Waiting for him, and now Peake gets in behind him to try and drive him across the line. Marsh comes to Morris at first receiver, this time putting the grubber in. Miles was there waiting for it. A nice play by the Parramatta 5'8", gets them 6 more tackles.
That's just control by Parramatta. They put pressure on the kicking game of the West Tigers. They get a set of 6 in good field position. They get a repeat set of 6.
Stay behind the line, Wes.
And they've just got to keep building pressure. Eventually, it will tell. Good tackle by Adam Peake. And then this one, Nathan Hindmarsh, just a good back slam on Ben Reynolds. Bang, rolls him over. Here's another big drop out by Paddy Richards. That's 60 on the fly.
Let's get them all.
It certainly was a long dropout by Richards. We watched some of those big hits in the last 5 minutes or so. Peake it is. He takes it up towards the 30-metre line.
Keep coming, 10.
Marsh showing it, gives it to Robinson, who coughs it up. Came off the Tiger, so it will be a knock-on against the Eels second rower. There were question marks as to how this new lineup would come together for the first time for Parramatta in 2005. It's fair to say from what we've seen in this opening 60 minutes or so now, it is very much a work in progress, and that's to be understood, of course.
You just can't have that many changes in an off-season and expect to gel in game run. That will be a better outfit as the year goes on. But you would expect, I suppose, a little bit more from the Tigers as far as continuity is concerned. Little things like that, just passing off the scrum.
It went to ground, luckily. Bounced up for Fadawira. Now they work it up towards their own 40-metre line. Brett Hodgson gets out there, and I'm sure that a moment too soon for Daniel Fitzhenry. He's had all sorts of problems under the high ball out there. Scandalis finally get back to his feet. Delia comes to Payton. It's been easy for the front rowers for the Tigers in the last couple of weeks. Scandalis suffered a cork to his knee last week against Canberra, and hence there's a lot of tape on that right knee tonight. And Payton, of course, saw him clutching at a back injury just a few moments ago as well. As the Eels will bring it back to their own 20 to get things underway. Liam Fulton is the player who comes off the park for the Tigers, with Hodgson back out there now at the fullback position.
And it's starting to get the time in the game where everyone's starting to struggle. And it comes down to the work you've done in the pre-season and how much you want to get a victory for your side in this opening game. You've got to work hard. You've got to make sure you're making the right decisions defensively, making sure you control the football when you've got it. And it's tough. It's tough when you're doing it, you know, you're struggling.
Here's Riddell running. The pass was there, but it went forward.
Well, we talk about good decisions. Riddell probably didn't need to throw that pass. The best thing to do would have been to go to ground, get up and play the ball. Running wide, just going to ground, off balance, trying to force the pass. Instead, now he finds himself in a scrum. They're going to have to defend for a set of 6. And the Tigers are going to be in decent field position.
Morris was looming up. He was there, as was PJ Marsh. We'll see Riddell, I'm sure, of course, of having out there in this last 20 minutes. Delia, oh, another bad pass. Wasn't a good one from the dummy half. It was out in front of Halatau, who coughed it up.
Well, that was always coming. Was always coming. Off the scrum, they made a poor decision, and no one knew what was happening. They had a chance at the scrum to work out their set of 6, what they were going to put on. Because they were tied, no one said a word. They just assumed that everyone knew what was going on. In this time of the game, everyone's got to be aware of what their role and what their job is.
So Luke Bird has it for Parramatta. The player just outside the Tigers' 40-metre line is Wagon from dummy half. Running at Halatau, and also Ton Payton there. Marsh has been contained from dummy half. We haven't seen him with the space to take off on one of those trademark bursts so far in this game. Peake playing it to Marsh. Smith comes close at hand at first receiver. Here's Riddell putting his body on the line, but he was tackled nicely by Halatau. Mark O'Neill getting ready to come back out for the Tigers. Hindmarsh shrugging away from one tackle, got through Richards as well. Still standing there before he was wrapped up eventually by Galea. Marsh gives it to Smith. Crossfield bomb again. Growth up against Robert Miles. Miles missed it. Growth is there. He didn't get it down with the hands.
Time off, please.
But he might have got the upper body on it to try and force it.
Initially at the jump for the ball, and if there wasn't, was there a knock-on the ground?
It looked as though Eric Growth may have forced the ball forward when he competed with the ball with Robbie Miles, although he looks extremely confident that he didn't touch it. I've got no worries with the onside. He held his width and he held himself back. He made a run at it. They compete for the football, and there. The motion of Eric Growth's hands, to me, looks as though it's forced the ball that way.
Having a look at it there, it certainly looked as though he slapped at the ball. Nick Stone has seen every angle available. He says no try, and from what we saw, you'd have to say a pretty good call.
Yeah. Look, if Miles was going up to get that football, there's no way in the world it would have gone back in his in goal that quick.
The Tigers work it away from their own end. The one thing it did do was give everybody out there a fairly decent break. I'm sure the players appreciated the multiple angles that Nick Stone had the chance to look at. Payton playing it back to Galea. Bounces away from dummy half. The Eels defensive line will have to be aware that he can do some damage from that dummy half position. Here's Hodgson getting the dummy half now. LaFranchi was under pressure, and so was Galea eventually. Mark O'Neill has had some stitches to that cut on the right cheek of his. There's a nasty gash and blood spot across his face as he came from the field. Kick from Prince will go down to Tamana Tahu. He's back there playing as a winger on this situation, and he brings it back to the Parramatta 30-metre line.
There's been a reshuffle in the Parramatta side with Wade McKinnon leaving the field. And Tahu got up a little bit groggy after that tackle, walking away out to the wing.
Here's Morrison taking it up towards the halfway line. Just under 17 minutes left in this second half. The Eels still lead by just the 4 points. Marsh gives it to Smith. Stringer running at them. Balked on his run. He bounced off and put the offload away. And now Smith comes to Tamana Tahu, who ducked behind the halfback. Tigers perhaps thinking there was some sort of suggestion, at least their fans did, of a obstruction play. And now Morris. He'll play it just outside the Tigers 30. One last play for the Eels here. Riddell does the honours from dummy half. Smith gets away, puts the kick in behind Matthew Reek and also Brett Hodgson. Reek waits for it to bounce, has to do some work to get it back to the field of play, and then Morrison takes him into touch, and the Eels will get it back from a scrum feed 10 metres out. As it turns out, as it was last night also in that game between the Bulldogs and the Dragons, with Colin Best being taken into touch in a similar position. Had he been taken touch in goal, especially with the boot of Pat Richards on those goal line dropouts, it would have worked out better here for the Tigers. Yeah, it was a great play though by Glenn Morrison. He's come up with some really good tackles tonight, Morrison. And now Robertson standing out of the scrum. There's a real handful there for Fitzhenry. He laid the ball back and Morris knocked it on the first tackle.
Well, they need to show composure. It was going to be a quick play the ball regardless of for Chad Robinson. But he wanted to go that extra play. The Tigers look to be out on their feet, but as we've come to expect from them, they're gritty. They hang in there.
Parramatta off, let's stay in. Stay in, mate.
If they do it long enough and you turn the ball over, they're good enough to get one shot at you.
Here's Prince showing it a number of times to get on the outside of Glenn Morrison, who kept pacing it with the halfback to drag him down. A great run by Prince. Harrison now stepping off that left foot. Run into Hindmarsh. Nathan Kalis, the captain, comes back to the sideline for a last stint for Parramatta. Here's Hodgson ducking under tackles. Richards to Galea. Not touched there by Parramatta, and the tackle count will continue. Richards from dummy half. It comes to Prince, who goes deep to Hallertau.
That's 4. Movement.
He will play it here, just outside the Parramatta 40. Galea to Fitzhenry again. It wasn't a great pass from dummy half by Galea. Fitzhenry with not much happening for the Tigers. They create something. No, Prince was almost away. Super tackle by Hindmarsh. Last play. Harrison gives it to Richards, looking for a grubber off the legs of Tahu. He cleans up, and the Eels have it. after the Tigers applied some pressure down that short side.
Yeah, it was good play by Paddy Richards. He just needed to get the kick in behind the line, though. They were chasing down the Tigers. But Tahu, I think it was, got his foot in the road. The bounce come up straight into the hands.
Burt, rounding on his run, came back from where he started, almost got it across the halfway line. Payton had him by a fingernail, and they'll get a penalty as well.
You've got your hand on the ball. It happened earlier on in the set.
He's had a good game, the referee, too, hasn't he, Russell Smith?
Too much interference after that calling movement.
I think he's handled himself quite well.
Pushing the player back.
Been a good 10 metres. He hasn't let them lie there too long in the ruck.
Being very firm with his calls. He makes them
Let's get the hands
nice and early as well. That's a good job for our viewers at home. Of course, live here on Fox Sports are telling you exactly what the penalty is for. Explains himself very thoroughly. Riddell playing. Marsh comes to Smith, and now Peake, who heads towards the post of the Tigers. He'll play at 25 metres out from their line. One try here for Parramatta might be just enough to get them home tonight. Morris gives it back on the inside for Hindmarsh. Stopped by Galea and also Fitzhenry. Marsh waiting for it. Kalis is back out there now. Takes it forward, a simple settler. He'll play it 12 metres away. Marsh to Smith again. They came up quickly. Galea tried to put a shot at him. The halfback will play it here for Mark Riddell. Last play again. Morris knocked it backwards. Still last tackle, but the Tigers have hung on. LaFranchi wrapped him up, and again the Eels in the last couple of plays short of options on occasion because Tim Smith was tackled on the 5th.
Yeah, exactly right. Johnny Morris needed to take control. To be fair to Morris, that was an ordinary pass. But what the Tigers did on that occasion, they moved off their line. They knew they were under pressure. They knew it was a dangerous situation.
Scandalis playing it here for Fadawira. Didn't realise the ball had been played. Burner tackles there, the Tigers. 11.5 minutes left. Here's Galea. Getting it from Prince away to LaFranchi. At the halfway line. Comes back to Galea. Put a shuffle on as he comes to the defensive line. Stuck there by Robinson and also Morris. And now it's Scandalis who gets into dummy half. They go wide to Fitzhenry. O'Neill is back out there. Here's Hallertau. He can play both in the back row and out wide in the centres as well. Hodgson on the last play. Fitzhenry rubbering in behind them. Richards chasing through. So is Matthew Reek. Luke Burt got a cupping right hand for his trouble from Pat Richards.
Well, you'd expect someone with a bit of leg speed to cause a little bit of damage now in the game. Both teams are tight. Tigers give away a penalty. You run aggressively out here at the moment, and you've got some speed. I think you'll make a break. I think you can go through both defences. They're looking tight. This is when the outside men, or if you've got a fast back rower in your team.
Smith finds the line with a good kick for touch. BJ Marsh, the man in the football for Parramatta now, might be the man to carve open the Tigers here if he gets a chance. Here's Riddell taking it forward. 35 away from the Tigers line. Marsh gives it to Smith, and now Peake will take it forward. Got an offload away as well to Morris again. They put it down. Kalis was there. Perhaps he wasn't expecting the pass. He was probably lining up for the next play, and that look says it all, Brian.
Well, he wasn't happy. He wasn't a happy coach on that occasion. They just haven't stayed aware, Parramatta, and their execution has been a little bit off. There's nothing wrong with the pass from Johnny Morris. He had the hands free. He should have passed the ball.
Mark, get the head in properly. Get in loose forward. It's out. Come on, that's straight.
The Tigers off the back of the scrum. Time ticking away against them at the moment. Inside the final 10. A good tackle by Riddell on Dean Hallertau. Fitzhenry to O'Neill. Is out there now in jumper 19, of course. Started the game in 12 for the Tigers, but that was covered in blood after that nasty cut. Here's LaFranchi playing it just on the other side of halfway, and again a mistake. This game has been riddled with mistakes in the last 10 minutes or so.
I don't think there was hands in there.
Both teams at the moment struggling to get through a set of 6.
Let's make sure there's not
Simple mistake at the play of the ball there by Lafranchi, and it certainly will cost the Tigers possession and also pretty good field position as well.
Lock forward, locks in properly this time.
Well, you had to get to his feet. We speak about it a lot. You've got to sacrifice sometimes, play the ball speed. Tim Sheen's, the hand goes to the head.
Perhaps Brian Smith and Tim Sheens will be looking for a little Grecian 2000 after this game from what they've seen in this second half especially. It's been the one try scored in the second half. It was John Morris off a Tim Smith pass who crashed his way across. Gave the Eels the lead for the first time, and they retain it here by 4 points still with 8 minutes to go. Here's Marsh from dummy half. Smith turning it back on the inside to Kalis. Tackled by Galea down low. Midfield, 25 out. Marsh going quickly from dummy half. Gave it to Morris. Some good defence here by the Tigers. Scandalis around the legs with Galea over the top again. Marsh. The kick from Luke Bird is too big. And again, the Eels just struggling to come up with the right option at the moment to finish off one of these sets of 6.
Well, both teams have had poor fifth tackle options tonight. Kicking games hasn't been a strong point. Having said that, Parramatta, they put the ball twice in the air and Fitzhenry was fullback. They come up with 2 tries. But you would still expect them to put the ball up in the air. It was an eye injury that Hodgson left the field with. Now, he may not still be 100%.
Here's Lafranchi. A little bit of first receiver suddenly with Prince outside him. Hallitown gives it to Richards. He coughs it up. The Tigers can't string the passes together either at the moment. And Morrison has it for Parramatta. They get in the short side. Here's Riddell with some space. Looking for one more. He may not need anybody else. He stopped half a metre away. He plays it back for Tahu. Smith has to wait for it and then knocks it on. It's the theme of the second half.
Well, what team wants to win this game? It is there to be won. The team who shows a little bit of composure. Here's Riddell, worked the numbers beautifully, pushed away from Pat Richards. Good awareness by Matty Reek to go over the football. They pulled him up a metre short, and then the pass from dummy half, another ordinary one. The Tigers have got to work at 90 metres downfield. They haven't looked like travelling that far in a set of 6 all night.
That is true as it comes from Lafranchi now, doing some ball distributing out there. Here's Badawira, got a good ball himself. Stopped there by Wagon and also Morris. Hodgson from dummy half. Oh, it comes to Scandalis who puts it down.
He's dropped it anyway. No real advantage there, Jason. You penned it.
The whistle went pretty quickly as it turned out. Adam Peake knocked it on. The Eels won't mind the clock ticking away here down towards the 5-minute mark as this scrum gets set, and they'll have it just inside the Tigers 30 again.
Let's make sure we pack correct.
Can they find the knockout blow?
Let's bind in.
Well, do they have to?
Hang on,
they may well not. If the Tigers continue to cough it up at their own end. Here's Morris. Comes from Wagon. Away to Luke Bird. Running at Reek, who flew through the air. Bird came back at him once more. This time Reek was able to stop it. Morrison steps on his run. Back in behind the markers. Grabbed there by Fulton, who's back out there now for the Tigers. Smith turns it back on the inside for Kalis. We've seen plenty of that. These sets of 6 from the Parramatta forward tonight, working with Tim Smith. A lot of inside balls as Hindmarsh comes down the blind side. Always a danger to crash over himself. Riddell looks to do that, hits and then spins and then gets it across. Smith was there, the referee, looking at it, and wants the third referee again. Mark Riddell in a trademark hit and spin move.
The player that played the ball, and then just set the ground.
He wants to take a look at the play the ball, the referee. Hindmarsh took it down to within close range, and then Riddell off the back of it. The play the ball was okay. There were numbers there for the Tigers. Riddell, I couldn't see him get it down first time around. The referee couldn't have been positioned any better.
No. see Riddell, they were all there for it. They were waiting for it, the West Tigers. And he was always going to run from there at some stage. They don't seem confident. Riddell doesn't seem confident that he's got the football down.
I'm going try. Brandy's going try. I've been swayed. No try it is. Daly correct. Perhaps the Eels there unlucky when you consider benefit of the doubt, and I'm sure Brian Smith will have that thought running through his mind at the moment. Mark Riddell can't believe it either. And so the tackle count will continue. This will be the last play here for the Eels in this set of 6. One last tackle. Smith did well to reel it in. The kick gets away from the fullback. Hodgson can't get to it. And now the Eels have the try that wins them the game. It took one extra tackle, but they won't mind. Adam Peake is swamped by his teammates. Bad luck for Brett Hodgson, who suffered an eye injury earlier in the game. And the Eels, it took them the best part of 80 minutes to cement it, but they will get 2 premiership points first up in 2005.
Well, again, lovely little kick there by Tim Smith. What about the pickup? Hodgson couldn't pick it up. Smith's pickup was great. And Adam Peake claims the try.
It was an unlucky bounce for Brett Hodgson. And now Luke Burt from right in front will make it 22 points to 12. And looking ahead, the Tigers in round 2 have the bye as Brian Smith gets a little more comfortably now on that bench of Parramatta. The Eels next week take on the South Sydney Rabbitohs, who themselves are in action in just a few moments' time, of course, at Aussie Stadium against the Roosters.
Oh, some great games coming up. For Warren, we're only into game 2 of the first round of the 2005 Telstra Premiership.
We've seen some good action to start.
We have seen some good action. Look, I thought that could have been a case of giving Mark Riddell a shot of goal there. I'm sure the Parramatta fans want to see the pig in front of the sticks, lining up for a goal and get their first chance to salute.
Here are the Tigers through O'Neill, and now Richards working it down the right-hand side. Make sure you stay with us, of course, because after this game we will take you live to Toyota Park, where Mark Braybrook and Scott Sattler will bring you the action from Toyota Park. The Sharks up against the Panthers. Many people saying the Panthers could be the team to beat in 2005, although from what we saw from the Bulldogs at this venue last night, I'm surprised if both of them met in the grand final. They were sensational last night. Here's Marsh from dummy half. Comes to Adam Peake, the try scorer. Not noted, of course, as a try scorer. The front rower nabs a rare one. Marsh from dummy half will give it to Hindmarsh, who takes it across the halfway line. 60 seconds to go. From dummy half, Marsh puts it high in the air. Will sail out of play by a good margin. Wasn't the kick he was looking for. It won't matter though, because they're safely home tonight. They lead by 10. The Tigers will finish this game off with the ball in their possession.
I don't think the Tigers have looked like scoring in the second half. Yeah, back to their old ways, the West Tigers. Even though they looked to use the ball, everything was quite slow. Even the passing, just not crisp.
Here's a chance for Tahu to show how quickly he can go. He got the loose ball from Richards and gallops away for his first try as a Parramatta Eel, and he puts it down behind the post as well. Having attended training during the week, I got the impression here at Telstra Stadium a couple of nights ago, as the Eels went through their paces at the same venue. They're a fairly close-knit bunch, and I think we've seen that a couple of times tonight after tries. They are very quick to get there and congratulate the try scorer.
Well, it's been a lean season for them over the last couple of years, and look, you've got to start the season off with a win. It builds confidence, and it's been a good game by Parramatta. I mean, they've struggled at times, but they've showed a lot more composure than what the West Tigers have in this second half. They've built their pressure, and when you build your pressure, it's funny how points can just seem to come on a roll. You can score back-to-back tries. Luke Burt converts. Smith again down there on the bench. He's happy.
And that will do us here tonight The Eels have beaten the Tigers 28 points to 12. They trailed 12-10 at half-time.